Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. That's me, Olga Geidane, and I'm very excited to see you all today. And it will be wonderful if you could join us, Paul, Davis, and also myself, in the conversation about how to find true life purpose. And why we would discuss this particular question with Paul Davis. Who is he to talk about that? Well, he's not only a fellow coach, a speaker, he also was a regional president of Professional Speaking Association, something that the role which I have right now as well. He's also is NLP business practitioner, and he has so many other titles. He helped millions, maybe not millions, but definitely millions of people around the world directly and indirectly through his videos, through his posts, through his articles to find their life purpose. And I know he worked with many, many people individually to help them to get on their true path. So, Paul, I'm very delighted to have you today in my studio where actually you can help those who are watching us today to find and understand the path of finding their true life purpose. Thank you for coming today.
It's great to be here, Olga. Thank you very much for having me here.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. But I wonder, Paul, how easy was it for you to find your own life purpose? It's something where people talk about all the time. And I love to say this phrase, we teach what we have to learn. So I bet you anything, you found your life purpose, and that's why you're now helping others to find their life purpose.
Yeah, no, it's a really, really good question. Because for me, actually, it took quite a number of years.
Wow.
So let me explain that in another way. So all my career and all my business life, so I'm in business for myself for 20 odd years, and all my career and all my business life, I've been working with business owners, knowing what their purpose is, knowing what they should be doing, and what the impact and the difference that they're here to make. So while I was able to have those knowings and those insights, because I'm highly sensitive, I'm intuitive, I was able to see it for other people, but I wasn't able to see it for myself, and that was the difficulty. And it wasn't until, so I went through quite a long time trying to figure out what's my own life purpose. So I can see the life purpose for other people. I can see what they're here to do. I can see what the impact that they're here to have. But what's my life purpose? And even in a conversation I would have with clients, I kind of say, look, here's what you need to do. Here's what you should structure your business in this way, and so on. I would go away from those meetings and not feeling good, from the perspective of I'd wish for somebody to come along to me and say, well, what my life purpose was, with the same level of clarity that I would have for my clients. And it wasn't until, for one better word, a light bulb went on in my head, and I realized, actually, Paul, no, your purpose is to put people on their purpose. And once I literally got that, everything opened from that perspective. But in my world, where a lot of how I work and what I do is very much on an intuitive perspective, and I originally qualified as an accountant. So with being an accountant, you wouldn't typically understand to work from an intuitive perspective, and especially with a lot of the subject matter that I talk about. But being an accountant, I'm process driven, I'm systemized. I've got to find, okay, what's the process and what's the system for doing something. So I spent many years then to try and come up with a methodology in order to, for one better word, substantiate the knowings and the insights that I get for clients, and therefore they can see it in their life and they can see the evidence in their life. And then the comment I used to get back from clients was, it was great to get their purpose, but then they'd somewhat come back to me and say, well, no, you're just making it up. You're just saying what I wanted to hear, kind of thing, which wasn't the case. So then what I had to develop was develop this methodology in order to help people and guide people to see the evidence in their life to say, no, here's what your purpose is. And then when they saw that and they understood all the pieces in the jigsaw came together, then they were more readily, let's put it away, open to actually say, okay, that's what I need to do. And then literally they're on the right track for what they should be doing here in this lifetime.
Wow. Paul, right now you just showed a beautiful journey how not only clients learn from you, but you also learn from your clients. You were
Yeah,
helping them, and you were just stopping, pausing, whatever you were doing, and you were just observing what happens there. You learned from that experience, that purpose, as to help them to find their purpose. I love that. And I think many people are still on their journey of finding their purpose because they don't realize they probably already found one. They probably already have one. They probably already found one, but they just haven't noticed that. They haven't spotted that. It's almost like in that blind spot when we drive and we can't see the car in a blind spot. The same is for them. It is still in their blind spot. But I love the way
yeah,
how you were able to recognize that. But then how about other people? I know they can come to you and they can hire you and you can help them to find their life purpose if they're still searching for that. But what advice would you give to those who maybe already are doing their life purpose, but they're not aware they are? How can they recognize that?
yeah. Well, let me put it this way. What I would say to you straight away is don't do what a lot of people say you should do. And when you go and you Google how to find your life purpose, don't follow anything that's said on Google, literally. And so let me explain that. Okay. So there's a number of, for one better word, myths that I refer to when I work with my clients and when I'm giving workshops and all the kinds of things. And one of them, so let me just touch on a few of them. Um, People will probably, if somebody's in a space of trying to figure out what their life purpose is and what's the meaning of life and what are we all here for, what's the point of life, if you're asking those kind of questions, typically then you will search on Google or you read an awful lot of different books. And one book in particular that people will refer to is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And what Viktor Frankl says in his book is going along the lines of, well, the meaning of life is to give meaning. Now, that doesn't answer any questions, and that's the difficulty. So people are still left in a bit of a vacuum to say, well, yeah, but if that's the meaning of life, that's fine. But on one side, we can give anything meaning, and we do it every single day. But when it comes back to our own self and what is our life purpose and what are we here to do, well, then that doesn't answer any question. And another thing that I come across is that when people say, well, if you find your why, well, then that's your purpose. But actually, it's not. Your why is not your purpose. And what you'll also find is that, especially with business owners, and over the last 10 years or so, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of people talking about find your why. And business owners will literally, if you ask them that question, what they'll say is, well, I'm in business in order to make money to pay the bills. That's my why. That's why I'm in business. So therefore, they're literally pulling their hair out trying to figure out what their why is. And then on top of that, they could be doing a business or a career or something in their life, and they're trying to apply a why to what it is they're doing. But what they're doing may not be what they should be doing. And
Yeah.
secondly, on top of that, what they're doing is they're trying to work out their why from a conscious perspective. So they're consciously trying to work it out. They're trying to think what it is that their why is. But your why, your true why, is never, ever, ever from a conscious perspective. It's from an unconscious perspective.
Mm.
So one of the techniques that I bring my clients through is to unearth that conscious why from it is, and that's their true inspiration. You'll hear things along the lines of, again, in your search, you'll come across ikigai, for example, which is the Asian term in relation to find your purpose. And if you find your mission, your passion, your vocation, and what the world wants and how you can make money out of it and so on, and you'll understand. If you've seen it, you'll see this Venn diagram. But what the part that people cannot fill out in that particular Venn diagram is their mission. What is it that they're here to do? So they're still left with this vacuum of not knowing what their purpose is. So let me break it down. Okay. So there's 4 elements to what makes up your life purpose. There's your mission. That's your what. So what I call your genius quest. So every single individual has their own unique mission in this lifetime. So when you understand and when you know what your genius quest is, that's going to give you your what. It's your mission of what you're to do. The other thing that I've discovered over the years is that I've identified 10 different genius roles So each person plays one of these roles. Now, it's not something that they've had since they were a child. They don't have to work at it. They don't have to develop any skills at it. They don't have to go to college or university to try and develop that unique role that's for them. It's absolutely, totally, and utterly unique within themselves. You could say it's at an unconscious level, which it is. And what you'll find is that people will be attracted to you for that particular role. Now, when you know what your mission is and you are able to identify what your genius role is, the two of them always go hand in hand. So what I mean by that is that your genius role will always be in the best, it's the best role that you can have in order to fulfill your mission. So I've identified 10 different genius roles. And so when you identify what your genius role is, that you naturally play, you do not have to work at it, then that's in line with what you're to do, with what your mission is. But the difficulty is there's a shadow side to every single role, and there's a frustration point to every single role. Now, what happens for people is that's what causes self-sabotage. So that throws them off what they should be doing and throws them off track. So now you know your what. Your genius role gives you your how. That's how you're to do and it's how you're to fulfill your mission. Your next one, your real why, your true why, is your genius inspiration. And that's again on an unconscious level. So now you know your what, your how, and your why. But then what is it that you get back? What is it that drives you? What is it that you get fulfillment from? And think of it from the perspective of the analogy or the analogy that I give my clients is just think of it from the perspective that you've got 3 buckets in front of you. And what you want to do is you want to fill each one of those buckets. That's where the terminology fulfillment comes from. When you're able to fill those buckets, that's when you get your own personal fulfillment. So your personal fulfillment, your personal reward, what will literally inspire you and have the executive center part of your brain working in line with your unconscious, that's what I refer to as your genius drivers. When you understand your genius drivers, and again, your genius drivers comes from an unconscious perspective. So when you bring all those 4 elements together, that's what it brings. It gives you every single piece that you need for your unique life purpose. And you cannot work that out from, you're using your conscious mind in order to interpret the unconscious, but you cannot work it out from a conscious perspective. That's how you find your life purpose.
And that's so powerful. And thank you, Paul, for saying that and highlighting that, because very often people spend too much time in their conscious and they wonder why they cannot logically understand the life purpose, why they cannot logically get to the rock bottom of why they're here on this planet of Earth. But actually, it's all subconscious. And I love the fact that you also highlighted that something that you're a genius at is something what you are just naturally gifted. And that's why people love you for that, and they're already to you for that.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah.
for you, the task is to stop and witness and to recognize, right? To realize what actually people are surrounding you, what they want from you, right? What do they actually want from me, right? And to see maybe that is your life purpose. It's so easy to miss it though. So easy.
It is, yeah.
Life happens, people, social media, so many distractions, and you might just absolutely miss it. And only decades later, people will just stop and then recognize that. So, do you think there's anything like, it's too late now? I should have
No.
found life purpose earlier.
No, never, ever, ever. I've got people that will come to me that will be, they could be in their 60s and their 70s, and they still have this inner desire that I'm here for something greater. I'm here to make a difference. I want to make a difference, but I just haven't figured out what that is. So it's never, ever, ever too late. And the very fact it is that we are actually living longer these days than we were before. So from that perspective, no, it's never too late. People will also, I've had so many people come to me whereby they will be perceived as being hugely successful. Now, I say perceived as being hugely successful in terms of what people understand success as being, whereby they've got the cars, the houses, the wife or the partner, they've got the kids, they've got the holidays, they've got the holiday homes to go along with it and so on. They've got everything that people perceive as success.
Yes.
But inwardly, they do not feel successful. They feel like an imposter. they feel empty. And typically they will come to me and say, look, Paul, I'm at a crossroads. I just feel like I'm on a hamster wheel. Everybody sees me as being successful, but actually I just don't enjoy what I'm doing. I can do it, but I don't really get enjoyment from it. I don't get fulfillment from it. And once I hear that word, along with a few other words, but when I hear a word, I don't have any meaning. I don't have any fulfillment from what I'm doing. That's literally, it's it's feedback for them to know that they're not on the right track. Now, can people find out? Let me put it this way: the question that I regularly get asked is, what if I find out what my life purpose is, and it's something completely different from what I should be doing? And that does happen. And the success stories are just phenomenal when that happens. But the vast majority is that they don't have to change a huge amount of what they're doing, because your unconscious is always constantly giving you feedback on what it is that you should be doing. And here's the difference: we try and control our unconscious, but actually that's not what we should be doing. And how we control it, we consciously think of what we should be doing. But when we turn it around and we actually be followed, or when we follow our unconscious and we're being guided by our unconscious, that's when we actually achieve far more success, far easily, and much more quickly than what we can do, as opposed to consciously trying to achieve what it is that we want to achieve. So our unconscious is always trying to give us feedback. Now, if we're open to receiving that feedback from unconscious, then that's when we're going to be on the right track. So let me give you an example. I went for a walk yesterday evening, and because it was a beautiful day, absolutely sunny. I went by the coast. I went for a walk, and I'm not joking it. And you know this, Olga, in terms of nature is just phenomenal. And the weather that we're having right now at the moment, it is just amazingly beautiful. And it's by the coast, and you've got sailing boats, you got people doing paddle boarding, the birds were flying over, you could hear the birds. It was just an absolutely spectacular scene. And I'm looking at people as I'm passing, and they're on their phone. I mean, they've got their head down looking at their phone. So they're keeping their conscious mind active in something when it's absolutely spectacular. They're going for walks, so they're getting exercise. That's one thing, but they're not actually fully in that moment, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I'm using that from the point of view of that we occupy our conscious mind so much that therefore we don't listen, or we're not allowing us to hear from our unconscious. All we got to do is listen to our unconscious. Our unconscious is constantly giving us feedback, and it's constantly giving us. I use the analogy of the feathers, the bricks, and the trucks. So let me explain it. So the feathers will be from the perspective of it's like the light touch of a feather. It's very, very slight, and that might be just a conversation that we're having with somebody, and something that they say resonates inside with us. It's internal. It actually resonates internally within us. Or we could be watching a movie, or we could be reading a book, and something resonates within ourselves, and we just get this moment of, oh, it's something. But then we consciously dismiss it. We consciously remove it. And think of it from an inspired thought, for example. When we get an inspired thought, we if we're sensitive to that inspired thought, we will notice it, but then our conscious mind will just dismiss it or remove it. They're the feathers. And the feathers are there to help us to maintain and be on track. But if we don't listen to the feathers and those nudges that happen in our life, well, then the brick comes along. Now, the brick is a little bit more subtle than the feathers, because the brick shows up in life in form of an illness or an accident. Now, it's an accident or an illness that we can get over, but it does stop us in our tracks. And its purpose to stop us in our tracks is for us to recognize our moment in life right now, at that moment in time, and for us to take stock and see, do we want to alter our life path from that perspective? It can show up in a financial difficulty that we go through, or a difficult period in our career or our business or a relationship. So it will affect us in one shape or form, and it always affects us in the one that has the biggest trigger for ourselves. And that's how our unconscious is trying to get our attention to literally put us on the right track. Now, some people alter their course and they recognize, okay, I've got to change what I'm doing. But the vast majority don't. And what happens then is the truck comes along. And the truck, if you can imagine, is a little bit more severe. And that comes in the form of an illness that is very, very difficult to get over, if at all. It alters our life. Or it's an accident, literally, that alters our life. It's a divorce, a separation. It's a bankruptcy. It's a redundancy. It's something that is very, very significant in our life. And we can get over, but it does alter ourselves it leaves a scar, let's put it that way. So that's the truck. I mean, nobody wants to have the truck. And I've come across so many people that literally they don't do what they're being guided to do or whatever it might be. And then invariably the truck comes along. When people come to me, because people find me in a lot of really unusual ways, and a common comment that I get from clients is, I don't know how I found you. I found you for some reason. You just showed up. So whether it be through Google search or whatever it be, I don't know how I found you. I wasn't even looking for you at the time, but then all of a sudden I find you. So I refer my first book. My first book was called Evolve, and I talk about in that. I talk about the feather, the brick, and the truck. But in that book, I actually refer to I am the brick. So when they come to me or they find me, I'm typically the brick that comes to say, look, this is what you're supposed to be doing in your life, and this is, if you follow this course, well, then that's where you're going to have the most easiest success, and your life will be more in flow.
Yeah. What you mentioned there is something what I'm sure right now many people are sitting there and thinking, was it a feather or was it a brick I just got recently? Or maybe I was hit by the truck, right? And when you were speaking, I could relate to every single stage, because I've been through all of them. And what I learned is just to listen to the feather messages. It's much
easier.
Yes, you just eventually learn how to recognize those feather messages, because being hit by the truck is not pleasant if you don't want to be there.
No.
So it's really a lot helpful to listen to those feather messages. But what I must say that I remember when I was on my journey of recognizing the signs and how universe speaks to you and how you get these life messages as a feather. Was a lot to do with trusting. Trusting myself and my intuition, isn't it? And because we live in a world where there's so much noise, as you said, people are on their phones, in a restaurant sitting together, they're on their phones, in the nature, they're on their phones. They're surrounded by so much noise and distractions that they cannot go inwards to start trusting themselves and start trusting those feather messages. So how people could start trusting themselves more to be able to hear those feather messages?
Good question, because trust is absolutely paramount in everything, meaning that it's trusting your unconscious, but it's trusting the universe in its totality. So if you want something to happen in your life, well, then trust has to happen. Trust has to be there. And if you don't have trust, fear and anxiety and worry starts to come into play. So I don't want to go off on tangent, but that's how paramount trust is. But if you want to trust the feathers a little bit more, and again, while you're learning how to become more sensitive, look at it from the perspective. try and find an affirmation of what it is that you're receiving. So let me put it this way. Okay, so one of the things that I will teach clients to do is look for numbers that are in trees. I don't mean trees as in the trees that grow. I talk about numbers that appear in three digits. So think of it as being 333 or 111 or 222 777, because there's a huge amount of power and energy in 3 as being the number 3 and also the number 7, but also in 3 numbers showing up. And you can think of it from the perspective of, take it as being, is that a signal for yourself to say, okay, what I'm thinking right now at the moment is being affirmed by this signal. So you can develop a, for one better word, how would I say, an engagement or a terms of engagement, if you want to call it that way, of how you want to work with your unconscious. And your unconscious will work the way you want to work it. And it's a two-way street. It's not you dictate to the unconscious, and it's not the unconscious dictating to you. It is a two-way street looking from that perspective. So you can come up with something that it's for you to get confirmation or affirmation from what it is that your inspired thoughts are. So the typical one that I give my clients is just look for so if you're having a thought and you think it's an inspired thought, but you want to be reaffirmed on it, well then ask for, well, I want to see 3 numbers showing up. And it might be 3 3s or 3 7s or whatever. And so that's one way of how you can start to develop. But there's a lot of other ways. The more you, ultimately what you want to do is you want to develop your intuition. Now, people will understand, they may not refer to it as intuition, but they'll understand gut feeling. And they'll know the difference of, well, okay, and they'll always say, when I have this gut feeling, I know it's right, and therefore when I follow my gut feeling, it always works out the right way. That's your unconscious. That's your intuitive side. That's the intuition. So all of those terms are exactly the same thing. So really what you want to do is open the channels and develop that muscle, for one better word, with your unconscious. And how you do that is literally, the best way is through meditation. No two ways about it. The best way is through meditation. And there's multiple forms, and there's so many apps now available to help you to learn meditation. The meditation that I learned was transcendental meditation. So it's where you follow a mantra and you go into a state of bliss. So that's all. Think of it this way. If you want to develop a particular muscle, you go to the gym and you'll work on a particular type of bench press or whatever. Bench pressing is not something that I'm particularly passionate about, so therefore I don't know the correct terminology. But if you want to develop a particular muscle in your body, you'll go to the gym and you'll work a particular bench press or whatever in order to develop that particular muscle. Developing the relationship with your unconscious, your intuition, your gut feeling is exactly the same thing. It's developing a muscle. And the best way of developing that muscle is through meditation and being present. So, and rather than trying to work things out, it's sensing. I typically, when I'm working with clients, I say, how does that feel? And what I mean by feeling, I don't mean, how does it feel? Does it feel icky or not? It's no, I'm asking them to literally connect with their inner self and connect with the inner self, and what's the feedback or what's the response coming from their inner self or from their unconscious. And that's how they develop it. And that's, if you follow that, your life, it becomes an awful lot easier.
That is so powerful you mentioned that. And I bet you anything right now, many business owners, many leaders, many, managers and those entrepreneurs are watching this and thinking, what are you talking about? I'm a business person. I'm all into analytics and numbers and strategies. And you talk about intuition. But the truth is, intuition speaks to you at many levels. It's not only personal life, but also in your business, whether you will hire that staff member or not, whether you will go ahead with this business deal or not, whether you will open up the new channel, the new ways or whatever else it is or not, right? Your intuition will help you at every single level. So Paul, your words are like music to my ears right now, because I wouldn't say it was very easy for me to start trusting my intuition or the gut feeling, as you already referred to it as well. It was quite challenging as well for the same reason, the noise, the distractions. But as you said, through meditation, I just learned to just observe and tune in into myself. And what's magical, once you start trusting your intuition, firstly, it like whispers to you a little bit, but then it speaks to you louder and more. And then sometimes I would listen to some intuitive messages and I'll be like, okay, that doesn't make any sense, but I know I got to do it. And guess what? I was to do it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
there was some absolutely amazing, spectacular outcomes. Like, for example, these. When my intuition told me last year in December, pack my stuff, pack everything into the storage, leave UK before the third lockdown and go traveling, I was like, I'm sorry, my darling intuition. I know you're powerful, but I think this is beyond any logic, right? But knowing that I have to trust and follow, I did
Mm.
that. Guess what, Paul? I'm getting married to my dream man in August.
Oh wow!
I would never,
Congratulations.
it's so mind blowing, but I would never meet him if I wouldn't trust my intuition. Not only that, we both are into creating impact. So now we can double the power, create even bigger impact. But that happened only because I was trusting my intuition. If I would
Yeah,
switch on my logic and I would say, no, hold on, there's third lockdown, there's so many complications, this would never happen.
yeah, exactly,
Right?
exactly.
So it really affects us at every single level. So those who are right now adapting yourself, please give it a try. Just give it a try and do that little meditation. But Paul, could you please in just in few words explain how we can start meditation journey? Because you and I, we both meditate. We know it's so easy. You just can sit down, be quiet, and meditate, right? But for those who never done it before, what is the easiest way to go into the
Uh,
meditative state?
yeah,
To get
perfect.
into the state?
That's yeah, perfect. The easy way, start small. So think of it from the point of view of, so when you learn meditation, and you'll, if you research this online, you'll typically come along the lines of, well, meditate for 20 minutes a day, 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening time. And people's immediate reaction is, I don't have 20 minutes to spare. So how on earth could I spend 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon? So people forget about it, and they don't do it. And then they're sitting there for 20 minutes and they're still thinking. So therefore, then they just don't get the benefit from meditations, because they're all they're doing is just sitting there with their eyes closed. So start small. So what do I mean by start small? Start with 5 minutes. And if that's too long, start with 3 minutes. And would you have time to spend 3 minutes? And most people will have the time to spend 3 minutes. They may not have the time to spend 20 minutes, but they will have the time to spend 3 minutes or even 5 minutes, and then build up from that. And even if you're not having the ability to have your eyes closed and to concentrate because you're still having thoughts come in, well, then find something that you can focus your attention on. And again, different forms of meditation that you'll find is, you'll focus on a part of the body. It could be, for example, your big toe in the right foot, or it could be your left thumb. It could be any part of your body that you'll focus on, and people will actually work through each part of their body, whether it be their head, their body, their legs, and so on. Um, but you can find something else. So I spoke earlier about, going for a walk along the coast. You could literally just sit in nature and observe the plants or the trees or the flowers around you. And even if you get consumed in just that moment for even just 5 minutes, that's a form of meditation, because what you're doing is you're being focused on something else. You're filling your mind with something else, as opposed to consciously thinking. It's the conscious thinking that keeps us in trouble. So think of it from the perspective, when I'm suggesting to people about meditation, and I talk about, let's just say, for example, you're sitting in your office because you're there, you don't have space, and you just have literally the only time that you have is in your office. You can't meditate at home because you've got kids running around or whatever it might be, and so on. But if you're sitting in your office and you hear a bus go past the window, what some people do is they get on that bus as well. So, meaning in their mind, they're on that bus and they're saying, oh, many people are on the bus, and where's the bus going to? And all of a sudden, their whole train of thought has gone on that bus. But what you want to do in meditation is, you just want to let that bus go by. So you recognize that the bus is there, but you just let it go by. Just as much as any thought that comes into your mind, you just recognize it, but you just let it go. And then you just bring it back to what it is that you want to focus on. So you start small.
I love that. I love that. And I think this is the best advice to those who never meditated before and they heard about the benefits and they would love to try, but they don't have their time. And yes, you can meditate for hours if you wish to, right? They even the
Absolutely.
meditation courses like 10 days, for example, Vipassana meditation course, which you can go to and all you do, you meditate, but you got to start small. You can't go from absolutely nothing to 10 days meditation, right? It doesn't work
Yeah,
that way. Just on the
yeah,
motorway, you can't be static, standing in one spot and then driving 100 miles an hour in 1 second. Even the fastest car will take some time, right? So same here. Give yourself the time and just pay attention to enjoyment. I think what you will refer a lot is do what you can. You can do only 3 minutes, do three. The
yeah,
truth is, You will enjoy it and you will exceed it to 5, and then you will do 10, and then you will do 20, because it's what happens when you really enjoy something, you do more of that.
Yeah, yeah,
So love
and
that.
it's forming a habit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's forming the habit and also the neediness for that. When you realize, oh, I need that, then you
Yeah,
will do it, right?
yeah,
If you don't feel the neediness for that, you will not do it. So
yeah,
allow
exactly.
yourself to develop that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Oh, powerful. Paul, I could talk to you for hours, and I knew I'll be able to talk to you for hours because we spoke before as well, just not on a live show. But I'm so grateful for your wisdom, and I'm so grateful for you finding your life purpose of helping others to find theirs. Because without that, you wouldn't be us to understand more about this topic, how to find the life purpose. So thank you so much for all your wisdom and your amazing, amazing energy today. I can feel your vibe. It's so amazing. If people would like to get in touch with you, how can get in touch with you and you help them with else with a part of helping them with the life purpose?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that people can get in touch. Probably the easiest is if you go to my website. So the website is www.paulwilliamdavis.com. And on that, you'll see my podcast. There'll be an ebook that you can download as well for free. There's a community that I'm building, which is not on social media. I'm not on any of the social media channels from the community perspective. It's a standalone community, and people are joining that community. It's free to join, and within that, I go into an awful lot more deeper. It's live. It's where I go into a lot more deeper information and knowledge and sharing and insights and all the kinds of things to help people on their journey, because it's not just about, and again, it's just my background. So part of it is putting people on the right track and putting people on the purpose. And it's the best way of literally achieving the success that you want to achieve in this life. But once you've got your purpose, well, then how do we grow and scale your business? And that's my background. That's what I've been doing for well over 20 years. But the easy way is literally, yeah, just go to my website, paulwilliamdavis.com, and my podcast, my community, my ebooks are all there available.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I so appreciate sharing this information with us. And also, what I'll put on the screen, and also what I'll do after the put your contact details below the video so we can get in touch with you and your energy is amazing, your vibe is amazing, and what you have done already, not only to those thousands of people whom you helped one-to-one, but also to those millions whom you helped, inspired through your content, through your post, through you being you, is just absolutely remarkable. So please never stop doing what you're doing. Can you promise that?
I had no intention to. Thank you, Olga.
Good, good, good. Because we need more people like yourself for sure, Paul. Thank you so much. Well, thank you all who was watching us today. I really appreciate you being here with us. Thank you for your comments. I could see people were joining us from different countries, from India and Pakistan and England, which was amazing. And also, I would like to say happy Eid to those who are celebrating that, because a couple of my friends are celebrating that. So happy Eid to all of you who are doing these wonderful celebrations of that amazing event today. But those who are watching us today, I hope you'll be able to take away a couple of actions. Remember, we can do these videos day in, day out, but if you don't take at least one action, one step out of this show, then you just wasted your time. So please invest your time wisely. Whatever you learned today, please implement it. And also, take care of others by sharing this video. When you will make just one share, they can inspire, motivate, and educate other people and give access to Paul, and then Paul can help them to find their life purpose too. So thank you so much all who were with us here today. Until next week, 1 p.m. the usual time, UK time. And Paul, until next time when I'll see you somewhere, hopefully live this time.
Hopefully, we can't wait to get back to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Take care all. Bye bye.